Anyone that's got a DW745 table saw probably has a throat plate that's like that, and it has a few problems. The first thing is that you can see it's not supported all the way around, because this is obviously leaving a space so that you can put the riving knife in. And so as a consequence, you get movement here, and you actually get movement on there. You get movement on both sides. Secondly, we get a very, very wide slot. Now it's understandable, and the reason that we have that wide slot is obvious. We have to have the ability to tilt the blade over to 45 degrees, and so having a slot that wide does it for us. But because we spend the majority of our time cutting in the upright situation, we end up with this very, very, very wide gap on either side, and that can exaggerate tear out. So a common way to resolve the problem is to make a zero clearance insert. Now I just copied one that I saw off the internet, and that's a zero clearance insert, and you can clearly see that there is zero gap between the blade and the table saw insert. But it also means that every time I want to change this blade, if it was for a thicker blade or if I wanted to incline the angle, I'd have to produce a new one of these in order to accommodate that. So I had an idea, and I've produced this. This is a zero clearance table insert, but only this time I've got the ability to remove the actual insert itself and replace it with another one. So now this is set up for cutting with my little dado stack, which cuts a 7mm curve in one go. This is for straight cuts, and these are all spares that I can insert like such, and with that inserted I can incline the blade to whatever angle I want and cut through, and the knowledge that I've got another zero clearance insert. And this is the magic behind it. So that's a standard bit for cutting dovetails, and it has a 15-degree edge on it. So if I place that on the router table, it means that if I lower it, I can now cut what effectively is a very wide dovetail. And obviously, depending on how high or low I set it in the table, that depends on how deep I'm actually going to make the dovetail. And depending on where I place the fence, that will depend on how wide I make the dovetail. So back to the table saw, switch the machine on, and I'm now going to cut what I believe to be the correct thickness of timber that I'm going to need for my particular insert. Now, depending on the insert that you make and how deep you set your dovetail bit is going to depend totally on what you're going to need. I've worked out that I need about 0.9mm. So now I'm going to set the blade to 15 degrees and I'm going to run one side down. And once I've got that sorted out, I'm then going to readjust the fence over. I reset the fence now to about 2.2 millimeters, lock it off, and now I'm going to cut the other side. Now in reality, I probably did this a couple of times and then just kind of sneaked up on the perfect fit, and I could do that by just constantly sort of offering it up to the slot I'd cut. And then once it's good, off with the machine and take it over to the bench, and you can see that dovetail, and you can see that that sort of fillet of wood fits in beautifully. It's nice and flush. And then using that original table insert that I made, it's got a nice radius on it, so I can mark off those excess bits of wood, take them out, and then cut them on the bandsaw. So with the rough material trimmed off the end, I now know that they're going to fit perfectly into the body of the saw. This particular sacrificial strip that I'm making is actually in oak, but I've made them in softwood, and as such haven't found any appreciable difference in performance. They work very well, and it means that you're only concentrating on really replacing the strips. That completed, you now have a reusable zero clearance insert. and all you have to do is to put the effort into making the original body, and there are plenty of videos out there on how to make that, and it's pretty self-evident. And all I'm really doing is concentrating on just replacing the very simple sacrificial strips, and they work like a treat. And this is a great time saver. And so you can put all your effort into making a really pretty carcass, body for this to go in, and then after that you're just making the zero clearance sacrificial strips. Thanks for watching.